Hey guys, back at you again. This is Mark Taylor with Behind Closed Doors. Everybody can get it. How you guys doing? Once again, this is a podcast series that I put together for my caregivers of the world, right? Caregivers, whether you're caregiving for, elderly care, such as my late great mom, or you're even, caregiving for, special needs or someone that's disabled. I have a special need kiddo Mark here. I'll be talking about that book Behind Closed Doors for you guys as well. Everything behind closed doors all started with this book right here, ladies and gentlemen. That is, and it is available online. However, if you want a signed copy, you can get a signed copy from me. You just request it. I will leave my email address to you guys, and it will get it shipped to you. So nothing like having that that signed copy, so to speak. But everything started there. Caregiving started with me when I was young, as a child, and then moved into my 20s and 30s. Kind of was all about working in the field, so to speak, social services, and working with different folks in different capacities as a caregiver, then ultimately having my own son. He has Down syndrome, autism, and ADHD. He's 24 hours care, and he definitely keeps us busy. Nevertheless, guys, I had my fair share of caregiving, not only with my son, but like I said before, my late mom, which passed away in earlier this year in March. Man, such a journey. She died. She had Alzheimer's, dementia, Alzheimer's, and a bunch of other, kind of underlying conditions as well. But nevertheless, she's in a better place right now. But yeah, that's pretty much the housekeeping with what we kind of have going on with me, right? It kind of gives you my track record of, why I do what I do. Who's the loved ones that I actually care for. So, like I said, it's been around caregiving. It's been around my life, all of my life. But today, guys, man, I'm going to share, today is going to be all about resources, right? I've been getting a lot of messages lately, that's been tapping in, caregivers been tapping in with me to say, hey, do we have any resources that's specific for caregivers, right? Is it any grants out there? Is it any funding or anything like that that can help struggling caregivers? One second here. Yes, caregiving, I think I made it clear in some of my other videos, as a caregiver, right, you sacrifice. And one of the things that you sacrifice is, finances. It's unfortunate. But yeah, so you have to find some creative ways. And I do have a couple of other channels that, on the podcast that I'll leave all that information with you guys as well, that I kind of talk about side hustles and things like that. But in terms of resources, actual funding, I did a little digging, right? I'm going to, matter of fact, not only did I do some digging, but I seen a couple of things here that I can actually use, So we both going to do this thing together, guys. Once again, this is a podcast series, everything did. And so it started with my son. That's my book, Behind Closed Doors. A much overdue book. It is a resource guide for caregivers, special needs, it's pretty universal. If you're a caregiver, it still shows you how to walk the walk, right? Unfortunately, caregiving is something that we don't plan on. We don't, but we should be planning on it, We anticipate, as elderly care or something to that effect, you kind of know, hey, somebody's getting up in age and that sort of thing. But we don't always know dementia. We don't know Alzheimer's. We don't know some of the other underlying conditions that kind of come along with being a caregiver and taking care of somebody that can't take care of themselves, right? That's ultimately what I do as an organization, Behind Closed Doors. So we are an organization, Behind Closed Doors movement. With Behind Closed Doors movement, like I said before, everything started with the book Behind Closed Doors. Then I'm kind of moved into podcasting and speaking and things to that effect. And then ultimately, my resource center, right here, yours truly, right in my garage. I dedicated, some garage space to this. So without further ado, guys, I'm gonna dive in. Let's see here. Like I said, I got 3 resources that I'm willing to share with you guys. Let's put that sucker over there. All right. Hopefully we get things going. Lately, I've been getting clipped off. I've been doing the videos and getting clipped off. I got to figure out what's up with that. If it does happen, I'll just redo it again. But if not, we're going to rock and roll, right? We're going to dive on into it. I'm going to share somewhat of a little story, right, before I dive into those 3 resources. Being a sandwich caregiver like I was, right? It called for a lot of different resources and money, and man, you can't work a traditional 9-to-5 job. You just got too much stuff going on. Man, I had when my mom was in a home at one point, I made it clear, I was an advocate, I was, active, this just wasn't no drop off and go kind of environment. With that, you got to open the door up for them to call you, right? So yes, you very well could be getting, calls in the middle of the night. Hey, such and such failed. Hey, such and such is sick, or, whatever, right? I got all kind of messages, and that's just with my mom, right? So, yes, trying to maintain an active, job and that sort of thing, man, it gets very tough. And you do want to be able to reach out to some organization. They got organizations out there, and I'm going to speak on 3 of them. I like to go on a national level because I don't know where everyone is at. So, national resources, they'll kind of, tap you in what's, closer to your home, town or city or wherever you at. But yeah, without further ado, I'm going to tap in. With that story of mine, it all boils down to, how resourceful you want to be, staying warm, as I say, stay warm. You got to stay near the fire. This is the fire, right? Being tuned in to these podcasts, is, being tuned in to support groups, being tuned in to different resources is going to benefit you along the way. Number 1 is the Resource Care Grant, right? Gotta get my other eyes out, y'all. Bear with me here. That's the ARC, the ARCH. I will have all of these organizations in the notes as well. Just kind of, make note of it. The ARC, ARCH, National Respite Network, right? What it is, y'all. It is a national program to help caregivers access free respite hours so they can take care of, get a break, that sort of thing. Have some time to yourself. That's super important, man. Self-care is a monster, man. I ran up on that one, right? Caring for my son, he's 24-hour care, just as much as my mom was going through her ordeal. At one point, she was living with us. Either way it go, whether she was with us or she was in the facility or not, man, I always had that sort of connection for them to give me that call, or I might pop up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning just to kind of see what's going on with these folks and if they're doing their job. But nevertheless, being pulled in both directions. Who it helps, right? Parents of children with disability, caregivers of adults and disabilities, and caregivers of aging adults. Right? What you can get, free respite hours, right? That's one of the huge things where it doesn't conflict with the respite hours that you currently have, that you're bringing to the table already with your loved one. Funding towards an in-home relief, right? Where somebody actually comes to the house, kind of give you guys a break. Like I said, I'm be tapping into this stuff myself. So stay in tune, stay connected with your boy. Like, subscribe, follow, man, please guys, lock in, man. You know what I mean? The better. My viral is, man, just getting that one person, you know, that can connect with this stuff and then make a difference in your life. That's my viral, right? It's not the hits and clicks. It's about us. It's about everybody kind of helping each other out. And I did say access to local respite providers as well. Why it matters: caregivers rarely get time for themselves. This grant gives families, a space to breathe and things like that without guilt. Man, I mean, I just don't know how to they explain the importance of, not only being a caregiver, but also being an advocate as well, being part of the whole picture. It really helps things out. When you're trying to wing it, and taking care of it, man, that stuff piles up on you. You know what I mean? It's all kinds of stuff, doctor's appointments, therapies, and all kinds of stuff that just kind of goes on. And I think, man, I think it was once, not twice, I think at least once, I think my son had a surgery. He had an ongoing surgery, different surgeries. So I'm back and forth. I'm laying up at the hospital with him. I'm kind of going back and forth, to check on my mom and all that stuff. And it's very and super challenging. So once again, number one, right, that is the Respite Care Grant. It's by ARC, right? National Respite Network. Like I said, I will be leaving the links, all the information with you guys so you can kind of chime in yourself on your own time. And if you have information as well, please drop it right in the box, right, guys? Communicate. We all here to help each other. You know what I mean? And I came up with, 3 of them, right? But I want to, kind of expand a little bit more. Maybe somebody in your city or something like that. I try to encourage everybody to kind of tap into what we're doing. Number 2, the HFC, right? This is the Hillary, the Caregiver Grant. What is this here? Okay, whoa, guys, that thing threw me off. The Hillary for Charity. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. HILARITY for charity. Caregiver Respite Grant. What it is, this is a grant created for supporting families that have loved ones of dementia and Alzheimer. So this one is specific for the elderly care community and things like that, who it helps any family that cares for a loved one experiencing memory loss. Lord knows we went through that one, right? All the way down to laying in hospice and right there with my mom, as she kind of checked out her last days, last hours. Super beneficial. Because when you formulate relationships with some of them respite providers, they're kind of like your eyes. You know what I mean? Some of them I was cool with, some of them I wasn't cool with, right? I still check up on them. I don't just 100% agree on none of them, right? And that kind of goes to my son as well. Him being special need and things like that. Sometimes we so happy to get respite care and things like that we just, or life, right? Just in the journey, raising a special needs child or loved one or whatever, right? You kind of get a little desperate, and then sometimes when you get desperate, you put up with whatever, right? So we still have to make sure we check our points and things like that, which I'm going to have from my experience, right? I'm going to provide a checklist, right? So as you continue to keep dealing with providers or therapists and things like that, you have a few things you can actually look out for, so you kind of know what's what, because unfortunately in this process, whether you're caregiving for elderly care, whether you're caregiving for special need or disabled, it doesn't come with a handbook, right? You got to figure all this junk out. So yeah, nevertheless, guys, that once again, that is the HFC grant, Caregiver Respite Grant, right? Who it helps, any family, or just kind of tapped in on that one for Alzheimer's and all that kind of stuff. What can you get with this particular grant? Full paid in-home respite care, right? You got somebody coming in your house. That could benefit some people. Some people it might not benefit, right? Because everybody don't want people in their house, right? We talk about that. Tune in on my podcast, Behind Closed Doors. Everybody can get it. I got other episodes in there as well where I'm giving it to you guys straight talk. Because at the end of the day, you know, as it was told to me at one point in time, as I was caring for a loved one, and I wasn't doing it right, or I was overdoing it, or whatever. It was simple words: get your ass out the way, Mark. Right? You know, I had to get out of my own way. Right? I had to be able to assemble a team. I had to be able to put some things in play. That ain't always perfect. You know, it's not always perfect, and I'm still working on that. You know, still you got to trust society, but you know, your elderly care is getting older. We know that that's going to happen. We know that things are going to be in play. If you have a special need loved one, they're going to get older. Things to that effect. So at some point, we got to, you know, we got to, you know, as they say, take them off the titty, so to speak, right? We got to let professionals do what they do. Let's see, care hours ranging from a few weeks up to several months, right? So there goes some care hours, you know, some folks actually coming in, stepping in, giving you a break. If you can get in, you know, get out for a couple of hours, you want to go check a movie out or something like that, or man, hell, just get some sleep, right? Man, sleep is golden to me, man. I haven't had 8 hours of sleep, right? Man, I can say at least all the time that my son been here, right? He's 11 years old. I can't remember the last time, guys, I had 11 hours of sleep. 8 hours of sleep, right? What's standard, right? I mean, it'd really be some real refining shit to really get 6 hours of sleep, right? I'm just saying, because my son, he has severe sleep apnea. So he has a breathing device, but that thing is not even working like it's supposed to work, right? He literally gets up multiple times, you know, out of his sleep, right? He gets up, he sits up, he kicks, he pushes. It's almost to the point where it almost seems like somebody has his hand over his face and he's just gasping like that. And then eventually he gets up out of his bed and he ends up laying with us. So whatever, that's another video, guys. Sleep apnea. I actually have a video on that one. I think I'm gonna do a new one on that because I got some new stuff to kind of bring to the table as well. And then free support group and caregiver information. So once again, that's number 2. So let me go back in number 1, right? We got the Respite Care Grant, which is the ARC National Respite Network. And then number 2, we have the HFC, Caregiver Respite Grant. And I just kind of tapped in on that. So, you know, what as it pertains to that second grant there, you know, it just said why it matters, memory care, caregivers absorb physical, emotional, and financial strain. This grant gives relief without judgment. Yeah. That's kind of the, you know, they kind of attach that onto all of them. But yeah, guys, I mean, man, I share a story with you guys as well. This is that kind of podcast, and every now and then we're gonna shoot the shit a little bit, and I might tell you, hey, you know, you probably want to have the kids go to the other room, right? This is, you know, one of those kind of platforms where we able to, you know, we link up like that, you know, real talk, and that's what I want to encourage, right? I want guys to chime in. Once again, you can pick up this book. This is kind of my commercial break, guys. This is the book Behind Closed Doors. Me and my lovely wife there, all right? Behind Closed Doors is available. If you're in the Phoenix area, we have a resource center. I just mentioned it early. We have exhibits where we're talking about caregiving, right? Giving history of caregiving, you know, all the strain and toll and all that kind of stuff that's put on people is one of a kind. You know, I created something that was personal. Like I said, you know, I had the fancy office, you know, downtown. I'm in the Phoenix area. If you're in the area, you can always drop by. But, you know, definitely you want to hone in, shoot me an email, you know, RSVP. If you're in town, you could definitely come through. I'll give you a free tour. And nevertheless, we can always connect, right? That's the name of the game. But yes. And it's not just for just the caregivers or the special need families. It's for anybody, right? Because when it comes to caregiving, it's not a matter of if. It's a matter of when, right? Because your ass is going to get old one day, or somebody you love is going to get old or get disabled, and you're going to end up being in that position to have to take care of somebody, right? So let's get with it, right? You know what I mean? Number 3, this is the UnitedHealthcare Children's Foundation medical grants. Wow. Let me give you this little acronym here, right? UHCCF, right? UnitedHealthcare Children's Foundation medical grant, right? Well, clearly it says children, so I think this is maybe directed towards, you know, children's or minor loved ones, right? What it is a national foundation that provides up to $5,000 per child for service and equipment that insurance won't cover, right? We have state insurance for my kiddo, right? For the most part, everything is kind of covered a little bit, but, you know, it gets funky. I mean, you know, to have access at $5,000 or $5,000 worth of services, I think is good to have in your pocket or have access to, right? It makes a huge difference. Who is for? Families that's caring for children with disability, chronic illness, special health needs, right? Yeah, clearly, you know, traits and all kinds of stuff that kind of is associated with dealing with kiddos with special needs, kind of like our kiddo, right? Having the sleep apnea device, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to find out more about all 3 of these services, guys, and I will be doing a part 2 to this podcast episode that I'm doing today, which I'm gonna be getting some of that information real live, right? I'm not just, you know, handing out information and I don't know nothing about it, right? I'm gonna dig into it, but in the meantime, I'm giving it to you guys as well. You can dive in. So that second video, now you can chime in and tell me what did you get out of it, right? But anyways, yeah, $5,000 per child, right? Who it helps families caring for children with disabilities, special needs, chronic illnesses, that sort of things like that. What you can get, right? You can get therapy, right? OT, PT, speech, assertive technology, medical equipment, counseling or behavior services, right? Sensory tools and devices. Why all this stuff means something, right? When you out there trying to get tools of the trade, you know what I mean? You're in the journey, you're gonna need tools. These are some of them tools, right? Why it matters for caregivers raising medical, complex, or special needs children. This grant fills the financial gap of insurance leak that's left behind. So, you know, guys, you know, those are those 3. And I'm gonna run them down one more time. And like I said, they will be, all the notes and everything will be in the comment section, just as well as a link to my book, Behind Closed Doors. I will be leaving a link as well, overall, to Behind Closed Doors movement. So if you are in the Phoenix area, come on by and check your boy out, right? I got the setup here, man. It comes with food. I got, you know, free food, a little bit, free gift. Like, you know, it's all about connecting and everybody kind of helping each other out, right? I don't know everything, but I've known and picked up quite a bit along the way, my caregiving journey. So guys, you know, man, thank you for chiming in. This is my episode, Behind Closed Doors. Everybody can get it. All right, there we go. Yeah, a little technology, boo-boo. All right, guys. Well, get an opportunity to get the bloopers too, huh? Look at this. Well, guys, I had to manually do it. You guys take it easy.